Next, we're going to welcome to the stage Jordan Andrews.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jordan Andrews. I've been an ECMO coordinator at MUSC since around 2019. Prior to that, I was a PICU nurse, and then next week, I actually graduate from our CBP program. So today, I'm going to talk about realistic ways that we can implement education into ECMO and perfusion programs. I have no disclosures. Okay, so I wanted to do this talk because education is something that I'm really passionate about. And this slide up here isn't anything that's prolific. I think we all know this is pretty obvious about education. But I think it's a nice reminder of the importance of maintaining proficiency and holding ourselves and our teams accountable. Because ultimately providing the best care is for our patients. We do some really complex work. This is an example here of one of our patients that got COVID-19. He was previously healthy, ended up on VV ECMO for a few months, got a double lung transplant, went back on ECMO for recovery, stayed on it for another few months, and then recovered after that. So we have some extremely complex patients, and we need to stay on top of our compliance. And then also for this talk, I am going to be focusing more on education, sorry for ECMO, but I think that this is really applicable to the perfusion world as well. This past year, I spent going off to all my different clinical rotations, and this definitely has a role and a place for perfusion teams as well. Okay, so our governing bodies agree with both ECMO and perfusion. If you look in the ELSO guidelines, there's a very specific one that's listed right here that says we need to be doing education, we need to be doing continuing education, and if we have smaller teams, they also recommend that we do it a little bit more often since we don't see these patients quite as much. AMSECT also has that it's a standard 2.3. We should be doing continuing education on an annual basis. Okay, so our purpose here, implementing education or really anything else that we're implementing into our teams here, it's something that cannot be overly cumbersome. It needs to be something that is sustainable for it to be efficient and for it to last and stay. And I believe that the way that we educate and how we provide resources has just as much of an influence to how our educators receive this information. We have our blue book, our red book, the specialist guidelines that we have. We have all this information that we could read forever, but I don't think that's something that we're going to look at on a daily basis that's going to help us when we're at our pump, when we're coming in for the day, and when we're brushing up on our skills. So at MUSC, we have several ways that we have found that our education has worked well for our team, has stood the test of time, especially during COVID when we had just an insane amount of turnout amongst our staff, and we had a lot of burnout that we experienced. I'm sure everywhere else did too. And these educational strategies that we're going to talk about really worked well for us and lasted through that too. So this is our staffing model. We have an ECMO manager. We have, I think, around 9 ECMO coordinators right now, all nurses. Our leadership team, we do all the priming, initiating, transporting, inter-facility, outside of the facility as well. And then we have a team of our ECMO specialists. There's around 35 to 40 of those that are all nurses or respiratory therapists. And they're there to sit pump for the day and do the shift management of the patient. So you see here, we're a pretty busy center, peds and adults, and we manage both. Also proud to say that we have been Platinum ELSO Center of Excellence, which is the highest level since 2019 on our peds side. And then on the adult side, we've been Gold and Platinum for about that same time as well. See here on the first one, that's a pretty typical setup that we have for our adult pumps. This is a Centromag. We also use our cardio help, just kind of depending on the patient's needs and what the provider would want. And then here, this is one of our peds circuits. We still use the Sorin roller head for any of our neonates that are smaller than 7 kilos. Any patient bigger than that, we'll put them on the cardio help. So our educational structure, I'm not really going to talk about how we onboard, although that's a rather extensive process as well. So instead, we're going to talk about how we maintain these continuing education competencies through our center. Okay, so number one here, I have high fidelity simulation. I could pretty much say that a lot of people consider this the gold standard for continuing education. It's the most realistic way that we can simulate different scenarios and different drills, teamwork, communication as you would with a regular patient. I don't think it's the only thing that you should have. I think that written and didactic information is also equally as important, but it is really helpful to simulate a real life scenario. We currently use the CLEFIA. We were fortunate enough to get a grant for this from the Emerson Rose Foundation, but there's Orpheus as well. I would say that there's the huge drawbacks for high fidelity right now is that it's extremely expensive. It's rather resource heavy. You have to have someone that's trained on CLEFIA, and you have to have someone that's there to actually do the simulation if you have someone that is practicing on it. So it's a little bit resource heavy. It's not going to be available for everyone, but it is a great way to do continuing education for your team. This is kind of just a standard setup that we use at our center. So if you don't have high fidelity, I think low fidelity would be the next step. And I think low kind of minimizes what it actually is. It's still a great way that you can educate your team and your staff members, anybody that's involved with ECMO. You can still do all those same emergency drills, water drills, work on communication with your team. You have a wet circuit set up. We often would use some of our expired packs. And this is what we used up until about a year ago when we had our CLEFIA given to us. You can practice it individually too, so you don't have to have someone behind the scenes telling you what to do and running it. You can go up and you can practice a oxygenator change out if you wanted to on your own, on your downtime. So this is still a great way. It's much more cost effective. There's a lot of benefits to low fidelity too. So that's right there. Said you'll fix it. Click it. Okay. It's covering at my other side, but I'll just roll with it here. So for our second education resource that we have, we do these videos. Really, this is kind of a pet project of mine. I came into my shifts on night shift, and I had so many people just asking me, can you tell me one more time how we did this? Or can you tell me one more time exactly what went into this process? Or I'm practicing and can't remember what we did here. So I went and took my cell phone on a few night shifts because I worked a lot of nights, set it up in the corner, and did just a bunch of little videos on each of our pumps that we have, and because we still have 3. So I put it into a Google Drive, and I tell you this because this is something that's really easy to simulate. I've actually seen this at another center too, and they said it works great. And so you just go to this Google Drive, you click on the pump you want to look at, and you click on that little clip that you want to review. So here's an example of one that I have. I have it sped up so that it doesn't last too long. On Cardio Help, you can have one try to turn the pump on with the power button. If it doesn't turn on, we need to start hand cranking. The first step is to take a clamp and put it on the arterial side to prevent retrograde flow. Put your safety bar into the up position. You're going to have to take off your venous sensor probe. You're going to take off your pressure cable. You'll take off your transport guard if you have one. Take your oxygenator out of its holder by turning it. Then you're going to fit this top notch into the notch that's on top of the oxygenator. The bottom piece, you'll have to push the clamp to slide it into place. Take off your clamp when you start hand cranking. To check flow, you'll look at your RPMs on the underside of the hand crank. Okay, so that's just one of the examples that we have on there that you could click on. It's quick, it's easy to make, anybody could do it. So we definitely recommend this as a way for you to keep up with your continuing education at your team. The third resource that I have listed here was another pet project of mine. It's just a pocket guide that we have. I think when I came onto our team, I got a little bit overwhelmed with all of our resources. Like I said, you have the Red Book, you have some printouts that we got. We have a really extensive onboarding process with all of these different notes. And it wasn't very practical to figure out which resource that came from, if it was from a slide, if it was from the book. And I wanted it all in one place. So I just went onto Google Docs. I put everything in there, prettied it up a little bit. And now we print this out. It costs like $5 for a book for it to get made. And we give it to everybody on our team. We have a lot of people who use this at our center now. So we have a pharmacist that use it, fellows, residents, anyone that wants to freshen up on it. I still use it today when I'm out and about. It does take a while for you to make it, but then once you get it, it's really easy to just update it for whatever is coming onto your institution that you might want to put in it. And I've definitely seen this at other places, just different versions of it too. And it all works well at the other places too that has it. So some stuff that's in it, we have calculations, anticoagulation, labs, everything that you can think of that's VV or VA ECMO, but again, just condensed down. This is an example of one of the pages that's in there. And then also we have scenarios for each VV and VA that you might see, what it looks like, how to intervene. And then for all of our supplies, all of the specs that might come along with them, like our oxygenators, our cannulas, also where the cannulas sit, where it looks like on x-ray, the positioning of the cannula. We also do CRT at our center. It's a nurse-driven team that we have here. So we have a lot about CRT. We also, like I said, go to peds and adults. So we have our differential diagnoses in here. Again, this is low cost. It's easily accessible by everybody on the team. You just have to actually put in the little bit of time to make it in the beginning. Lastly, we do send out these quarterly newsletters. This is not my project. This is somebody else on our team that does this, but she just created a template. She put in all the links to our other resources on here. This gets sent to everybody in our institution that might have an ECMO patient on their unit. There's a lot of like program updates, education, reminders, links that you might need. If there's some new research that comes out, those articles are put in there too. Again, this is low cost, it's easy to distribute, and it's pretty efficient at getting it out. So looking ahead, like I said, maintaining competency, it's crucial in our field. And just a side blip, education is a component of the ELSO Center of Excellence. So if you want something to beef up that application, these are all good ways to do that. I would recommend collaborating with other centers to see what works for them that might be similar to your center, and then share that information. I'd be happy to send out anything that we have to anyone else that would like to see it, and then use what's going to be most practical and effective for your team so that it actually works. Kind of wanted to round out here with, again, why this is all important. This is the same guy that you saw in the beginning that was rehabbing after he was finished with all of his rehab and got off ECMO. This is him walking out of the unit with all of the people that took care of him and cheering him on his way. That's all I have.
Hi, super great question, or super great presentation. I was just curious, as I'm a new grad and I'm graduating soon, so I, have minimal experience with ECMO. What is the biggest advice you would give to someone who's new to ECMO or a center who's starting to develop an ECMO program?
I don't think that ECMO for anyone is really like riding a bike. So I think just staying consistently familiar with it and staying familiar with like getting hands-on, like that one ELSA recommendation, if you even see less, to get your hands on it and practice more so that when you do see it in real life, it's going to be in the middle of the night where there's no resources around and it's going to be the worst thing that can happen and you're going to be the person that people look to. So staying competent with whatever resources you have at your center, I think is really important.
Hi, Jordan. Thank you very much for the presentation. I saw a lot of information about how you do your continuing education, and I just want to check, was that the title, continuing education?
It was.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. My next question is meaningless, and I will not grade it, but I was asking about your initial training.
Yeah,
How do you prepare your brand new specialists to become specialists?
Sure, I can talk briefly about that since we don't have much time left. But it is a mixture of didactic and hands-on portion. It's also, we have to interview whoever applies for it. We require a specialist to have a minimum of 2 years of ICU experience first. So they have to get there. Once they get there, we do a lot of didactics. They have to read the education manual that we have ahead of time. Then we do a lot of simulation after, I think it's a total of 3 weeks of our onboarding. Once they're finished, They have to take a test that's a didactic test, but then also we put them through some drills too that are not quite as complicated as the ones who join the team, but they do have to pass those. And then they are able to orient. We require at least 3 shifts per pump before they can start sitting on their own.
Thank you. To bring it back into the continuing education, can you describe some of your crisis management drills?
Yeah, so we do pretty much anything bad that can happen on ECMO is what we try to recreate. A lot of it comes from stuff that's happened to us personally, like oxygenator changeouts, a circuit changeout, arterial air, venous air. And now that we have Califia, we will actually make the circuit change according to those pressures. A lot of times you'll see one of us coming behind the pump and pushing a handful of air into one of the pigtails, and we'll have the specialist come in and we'll say, oh my gosh, we don't know where the ECMO specialist went. What's happening and how do you fix it? And then we time them and watch how they fix it, how they diagnose it, and how they get to the other end of it.